Let me explain how this works. I will speak for a while. I will show you a slide of pain points that I have figured out based on normative development that you may be dealing with, as well as knowing what's happening around right now that I think is important for parents to kind of think through and think about. I am guessing what some of your pain points are. That shouldn't take me more than 15 minutes. And then I am all yours for your questions. And the way that that works is that you hit the Q&A in the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer, or you hit the chat if you don't see the Q&A, or you hit the raise hand and I will unmute you. And you can ask me live, you can type it in the chat, or you can type it in the Q&A in case you feel more comfortable kind of typing it in. So let me start off, like I said, with sharing my slide here. Let's make it big and pretty so that you can see it. So it's not working. Let's try again. Let's make it big and pretty. Is it working? Yes, here it is. Okay, so nope, that's not it. Okay, so this is what I imagine based on normative development and based on what is happening in our community, that you, parents of kids in the early teen years, in the middle school years, what I imagine that you guys are dealing with right now, August 2020. So a lot of you are in your mind dealing with returning to school. Those of you that have middle schoolers in the public school system or a charter school, you guys have gotten the working orders. Working orders are, you will be doing My School online until September 30th, and then the school district will let you guys know if the option to go back on campus is available to them. So for the private schools, I know that most of the private schools throughout Miami-Dade have given different options, you know, and some schools are opening right away and some schools are staying closed. And, you know, every 2 to 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, they will look at the numbers and they will figure out whether your child will be available at school or not. So the number one question I get from parents is, oh my God, virtual school again. Last time it was a mess. And or, oh my God, this back and forth, this no decision. You know, my teen is highly anxious. What do I do about this? Or, oh my God, they're starting middle school and this is the way that they're starting it. So yeah, let's start with that one. There are a lot of rituals that we once had prior to global pandemic times that are not happening this year, right? The kindergartner, the 6th grader, the 9th grader, the college student, they're not having the normal experience of starting middle school. So if that is one of yours, please make sure to honor that experience. So from now until we get out of global pandemic times, no more telling them it's okay. No more telling them, let's look at the bright side. No more telling them, why are you always complaining? And more starting every sentence after they whine, complain, or tell you that something that is unfair by saying, yeah, that's true. I can see how you feel that way. Yeah, that's true. It isn't fair that you don't get to start your 9th grade year at your new school. And it is sad. Beat, beat, beat. Sit in that feeling. The adolescent brain is starting to think for itself. The adolescent brain does this thing of, and you know, if your child is sleeping more, if your child is more irritable, if your child just, you know, doesn't seem like themselves, that means that their brain has begun to shift, right? And the number one thing that the adolescent brain does is that it tries to debate and find its own answers, right? And they stop looking at caregivers in particular for the answers. Why? Because it's training that human to move towards the future and to move towards new things. So when you say, no, of course not, you know, it's going to be fine, you're going to be in there for 3 weeks, you're disagreeing with their experience. And this is bad in any relationship, but it's especially bad with teenagers, because now their brain is like, see, they're wrong, don't listen. So for those of you that are starting middle school or starting a new school, and you're starting it in this global pandemic time, and they say to you, this isn't fair, or oh my God, or whatever they're afraid of, please get into the habit of saying yes and label what they're feeling, and you're scared and you're frustrated and you're depressed, and then get quiet. Look at the clock. Wait 5 minutes. 5 minutes is forever. Trust me. When I used to sit with teenagers in a psychotherapy room, you know, that was one of the things that I had to do as a new therapist. I had to tolerate those 5 minutes where they're just thinking, and trust whatever they share with you in that moment. Now, Lena, I have a very, very anxious young adult. I have a very, very anxious 12-year-old. I have a very, very anxious 13-year-old. And this whole idea of starting and stopping is really making them scared. Okay, tip, sit with them and wonder, okay, there are 2 options, and they're both not good options. Say that to your child, because it's the truth, right? I know that you want to be with your friends. I know that you want to be back at school. And I know that this back and forth is really nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking for you, it's nerve-wracking for me. And then and then wonder with them, you know, there are 2 choices. So if we take control of it, then you just do online schooling for the rest of the school year. Or you and I together, or you know, manage this back and forth of starting and stopping, but there's no guarantee. Right now, doing online the whole school year is going to be a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of, you know, middle schoolers and early teens, right? And also for some early teens, the uncertainty of the back and forth is also going to make them feel bad. They're both not the greatest choices, right? But I would allow them to make the choice. A lot of the private schools are allowing you to kind of change your mind once or twice. But sit with them and sit with that anxious teen and let them know, hey, we have these 2 options. Hey, I know they're not the best options possible. However, choosing online 100% is going to guarantee that we can, you know, we don't have to think about that anymore. And going on and off is going to guarantee that you're going to be dealing and working with uncertainty. And if they're anxious, if it's an anxious kid, if it's your little one that has always leaned on anxious, that is always worried, right now in this environment that we're in, I really highly recommend that you and whomever you parent with sit with them and have that conversation. And finally, I know, Lena, that virtual thing from March to June, I pulled my hair out. I hated it. They weren't doing anything. They weren't paying attention. They were moving around. They didn't do their work. Okay. That always tells me that you're micromanaging. Okay. So this is true in global pandemic times, and this is true in virtual learning. You are not homeschooling. Nobody is homeschooling their children if you are taking the virtual learning option from your school. Okay, homeschooling, a parent goes, invests time, looks for a curriculum, picks it, and then is there available giving the information or paying somebody to do it with their child. That's homeschooling. Virtual learning is the school telling your child what they need to do. So all you have to do as a parent is set up the space that they're going to do this work and set up the routine that they're going to do this work, and set up your expectations of the work. So for example, school starts at 8, it ends at 2, and you're going to set them up in a space in their room. The couch is not a good desk. So don't let them pick the couch. You know, the dining room table is okay. If you have an island in the kitchen, that's okay. If they have a desk in their bedroom, that's okay. And, you know, check in on them. And then your task as a parent is only to say, you know, if they're on their phone or if you find them watching a TV show on the side, to just kind of put them back in gear. Because guess what? When they're at school, they, you know, every 20 to 25 minutes, they zone off. They look around, they look out the window, they look at their shoes, they talk to a friend. I don't know if you guys remember middle school or junior high, if you're 48 like me, we used to pass notes. And that's normal. A lot of us, you know, like lose attention. So for you, don't be on top of them going, hey, sit straight. Hey, do that. Hey. No, just set up the time, set up the space, set up the area, and then sit back. And tell them your expectations of when this happens. Your goal cannot be that they're happy with it. Your goal cannot be that they agree with you. Your goal cannot be that they aren't giving you, as we say in Spanish, mala cara, you know, like a face, you know, like an upset, I hate you, mom face. Because they are managing their frustration of doing this work on the computer and of being back at school. And that they have to manage on their own. And it's not your job to make them happy or okay with the choice. Okay? Your job is to set up the routine, the space, and the expectation. Okay, seeking independence and space. Normal. A lot of you guys in the beginning of the pandemic bought into all the pretty little mommy bloggers and people blogging about what a beautiful opportunity to be together as a family. And I will tell you the truth, every time I read that, I was so scared for the teens. Because from 12 up, it's normal development to want to have independence and space and autonomy, and finding places to do that. You know, for a lot of them, they're obsessing over whatever, Roblox or some type of video game. And, you know, that's what they've chosen as their pleasure and their independence, and that's okay, right? So again, think about pre-pandemic times. How many hours were you spending as a family? And maybe you didn't like the hours that you were spending as a family. Maybe you wished you had added more. But 24/7 is not a good marker for the adolescents, right? So, you know, be real and make sure that you're changing the time together to be realistic in something that you can sustain even after the pandemic. And also notice when are they seeking independence? You know, a lot of them are doing it naturally. A lot of them are doing it at night before they go to bed, you know, maybe after dinner. Let them. They need that space. They need that time. Don't micromanage them. The number one thing with this age group is don't micromanage them. But Lena, if I don't micromanage them, then nothing gets done. Okay. You're going to hate my answer, but I much rather your middle schooler have the natural consequences of not getting anything done than you micromanaging them all the way until they leave your house and go to college, and then them feeling lost in college because they've lost their manager, you, and now they fail out of college. It's much easier to fix the D in 7th grade that no college is going to look at than to fix a failure in college. That's how I want you to self-soothe, and that's how I want you to like allow them to make their decisions. The irritability and the disrespectful communication, that's a big pain point, and it has heightened in global pandemic times. Why? because all the human beings in your house are dealing with the pressures of the pandemic, right? Us, the adults, we're dealing with the pressures of making decisions that seem almost impossible to make. I wrote a blog about it, so go to the website and read the blog. Us, the adults, are feeling the guilt and the discomfort of having to work and care for, and mind our kids, and worry about the economy, and your middle schooler, your 12-year-old, your 13-year-old, your 14-year-old, they're also managing being stuck at home. They're also managing not being able to go to that sport or that music or those things that they used to do before. They're also not sleeping well, they're not eating well. So know that normal 12, 13, and 14-year-olds are irritable and disrespectful. Why? Because the brain is asking them to debate. So you guys call it disrespect. As parents, you guys call it angst. You guys call it, disrespectful. But actually what the brain is doing is that every time they get information, the brain is like, debate that, question that, debate that. Just like when they were pulling up on everything in your house when they were learning to walk. So when you say something about a subject and they're like, no, that's not true, instead of saying, excuse me, of course it's true, or saying, hey, don't speak to me that way, stop and say, okay, I see that you disagree with me. Let's talk about it, but try doing it in a more of a debate and a more of a respectful way. Walk me through that. Walk me through your thought process. And you will help them learn how to debate somebody, how to disagree with somebody, how to speak with clarity what they think and they believe. And what you have to do as a parent is tolerate and be okay with your child having a different opinion than you. There's a myth out there that if we have a different opinion than somebody that we love, then we can't love them. That's not true. And you can have a different opinion than your child. You can say, yes, I see your point, but we have a different opinion, and still set your boundary, right? Like, no, video games are not bad, Mom. I've read that you could learn things, and I don't know why you have this schedule. And then let's say that they give you like a really good debate, and they're like, okay, fine. You know why I think that I should play more video games? Because I can spend time with friends, and I'm getting all A's, and you're always on your phone. And then in that moment, you could say, you're right. I am always on my phone. And I'm working on that to, you're right. It is good for you to spend time with your friends, but I want you to plan how to spend time with your friends for an hour and a half. And finally, you could say, and, we're going to disagree about this no matter what, but I still have this rule that, you can't play more than 2 hours of video games a day. And so I'm gonna shut off, your screen. I'm gonna turn off the Wi-Fi, and I'm gonna help you with that because you're showing me that you can't. And then again, if they're mad, if they give you a mean face, if they stomp and slam their door, just tolerate the emotional response to your boundary. And you don't have to do anything about that. Nothing. That's just an immature emotional response to your boundary. And especially, you don't have to say anything, especially if they're following the rule. Okay, not listening to advice. I have another great blog in the website. If you want, you can go to the website, you can hit blog, you can hit search, and you could put in teen, you can put in adolescent, and a lot of these blogs that I've done about teenagers pops up. But this one is a video that I did about one baffling thing that teens do explained, right? And this thing is that they only come to you for advice when their head is on fire, when everything has broken down, and you're like, but why didn't you tell me? This is why. In the adolescent years, 12 and up, 12 to 24, they're trying to figure out how to resolve their problems on their own. That social emotional skill of problem solving, and managing hardship and risk, um, they have the need to do it on their own. So if they come up with a problem, you are not the first person that they think about, because what they're doing naturally and what their brain is doing naturally, just like when they were babbling and doing raspberries and repeating the last word that you say when they were trying to talk, problem solving is something that the brain is developing, just like language. It's just that it doesn't, it's so easy to see a baby trying to talk. It's really, really difficult to see a teenager trying to problem solve on their own. So what they're doing is that they're managing on their own, and most of the time they're solving their problems, and that's what we want them to do. Because middle schoolers, 12, 13, 14 and a half year olds, are practicing being an adult. So the less you get involved, the less you're micromanaging their problems. And when they come to you when their head's on fire, trust that they've been trying to solve it in a particular way. So they come to you, their head's on fire, and this is scary. This is scary because sometimes they don't ask you for help, and it becomes a big deal. And that's why it's so difficult to raise teen. And that's why a lot of you make the mistake of trying to hold on to them, because you're afraid, because sometimes the repercussions are big. And that's the big dilemma in the adolescent years, right? We have to have faith that even if it's a ginormous big issue, both you and the teen will get through it. And again, how you make it so that it's not such big issues is like, make sure that you have very specific rules and very specific expectations about certain things. But again, okay, but what happens when they come to me and they're asking me for advice when their head's on fire? Look at them and go, whoa, your head's on fire. Okay, I get it. You were trying to solve this on your own. What did you try? And then hear what they tell you. Not, why didn't you tell me? No, what did you try? Why don't you think it worked? Okay, this is what I think we should do. What do you think? That is how we give advice in the teen years. Social interaction. This is very, very hard in global pandemic times, and it differs from house to house. And this is because everybody at this time, because we don't have very specific guidelines, we all know what to do when somebody has a stomach ache, right? We give them, we tell them not to eat, we tell them to get some water, we tell them to rest. If they're throwing up, we make sure that they're getting liquids. So, but in this global pandemic time with COVID-19, we have no idea, right? We don't have a plan of action besides wash your hands, wear a mask, when you're going to be out in the world, and remain socially distant from people when you are around people, and remain in your own home as much as possible. That's it. Those are kind of the only 4 rules that we've gotten. And within that, everybody is doing their version of that. And that version is based on the risk tolerance of that particular family, right? So for some of your kids, if your risk tolerance is very, very low, like you have been in quarantine since March, you haven't gone to a restaurant, you haven't ordered out, you've been home, it's just been you guys, and your child having a friend who their family is, so that makes you a 10, but they have a friend that their family is a 1, where it's they don't believe it. They've been out. They're so upset that they can't go to the sandbar on their boat, right? That makes it really, really hard. So Lena, what do I tell my kid? Again, you cannot have the goal that they're happy and okay with your rule. I'm going to say that a lot. And I say that a lot when I have the Zooms for teens. And you don't have to be mean about it. You just have to know for yourself, them liking my rule is not my job. My job is consistently placing the rule, right? And listening to their debate about the rule. And if they make a good point, then maybe thinking about it and changing it, right? But if they don't, then keeping with the rule and being consistent about it. So you look at your child, and let's say you're this 10 family, and you say, look, yes. Remember what I said before? Yes. It's really sad that you can't hang out with your friends right now. Our family we as your parents, or me as your parent, I have a different risk tolerance about this, and I keep you healthy and safe. So no, you can't go to blah 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 blah. But then think about, what can they do? Can they meet in the backyard of your house? Can they meet at the pool of your condo and sit 6 feet apart and wear a mask? Give them an alternative, or ask them, how can you spend time with them? Finally, screens. Screens are not the devil. Screens are not wrecking your children's lives. I just recently got sent the research from Common Sense Media on tween, teens, and tech. I wrote a response article to it as it pertains to the Latinx community. But what we know is that there is zero causational, meaning that because this happens with social media, with television, with video games. Everybody thinks, oh, it's the video games that's making them violent. Oh, it's the social media that's making girls depressed and have eating disorders. No, we have, we've been studying this for a while. We're entering like the 18th year of this, and there's never a direct cause. There's never a direct cause. Usually it's more of, it's circular, right? An adolescent has already a mood disorder. An adolescent has already a negative thought process of themselves. An adolescent already has an inability to manage anger. So they find the social media or the video game that that feeling. And then, yes, does this add flame to it? Sure, but they already have it. So it's not, this does not cause this. This was already there. So again, that's why I'm always saying, if your child doesn't have a mood disorder, if your child is not overwhelmed with anger, if your child is not using or misusing food, the social media and the video game is just an outlet, right? And the way that I want you to see screens is as a variety. How are they using it in their variety? When are they watching TV shows on it? When are they meeting socially with friends on it? When are they using it in social media? And as it pertains to social media, make sure that your child is a contributor rather than, just eating it up, gobbling it up, right? Like, social media can be very positive if they're an athlete and they're creating their athletic persona on social media. Are they contributing to, that the YouTube, do they have a YouTube channel? How are they being creative and contributing rather than just consuming? Right? And if they're not creating, point out, wow, you're a follower, you're just consuming what these people are putting out. What do you want to put out? Right? And then finally, so it's TV, school, social with friends, and social with friends sometimes is attached to video game play, and social media. Right? So social media and video game play. So social media, make sure that they are contributing rather than consuming. And video game play, make sure that you have your restrictions and you evaluate what they're playing. Again, Common Sense Media is your friend. Whatever game your child is playing, they probably have reviewed it. Go read the reviews and make your own mind about whether or not you want your child to use that. Two, if you know your children's friends and you know their families, Make your life and that other parent's life easier and say, hey, I know that our kids are playing Roblox together. I only want to let, Susana be on Roblox and be playing video games, from 2:30 to 3:30. Do you mind putting a boundary for your kid? Or do you mind telling your kid to get off? To just say that they're getting off. Talk to the other adults, help one another, create a community amongst the parents. My kid is playing on a regular the Roblox game with 4 of his classmates, and I've let him know, hey, I think it's important that you play with your friends, and it's okay if you play an hour with them, but not anymore. And he told his friends, and then one of the moms was like, oh, that's Joaquin's mom, and she's a psychologist, so we're going to do the same at home. And to tell you the truth, that's when I got the idea. I was like, oh, we should be talking to one another as adults and saying, hey, I know they're playing Roblox together. Hey, I know they're playing Animal Crossing together. Hey, I know they're playing Name the Game together online, because that's the new park. That's the new play date. And help one another. All right. So that's it for me. I spoke a lot, but I think that when I do that, I am able to answer most of your questions. And why I'm able to answer most of your questions is because a lot of what you're worrying about is normal for development. Okay, so now is the time where you can ask me questions. So I have made it available for anyone to either unmute themselves or raise their hand or write something in the Q&A. So if somebody has a question, go ahead and raise your hand and or unmute yourself. Anybody? Any questions? Was I so good that you don't have any questions? If you any questions at all? Okay. So that's great. Oh, wait, somebody wrote one. Thank you. Yeah, you're so very welcome. You're so very welcome. So let me go over here and I'll do ask to unmute. Go on. I'm unmuting you. I saw that you raised your hand. Miss Christina, hello.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for all the good tips, the advice. I recommended you to many friends and moms. And thank you for being so real. You really do keep it real and practical. And I always get something out of it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yay, yay, yay. And it's hard, it's 12 to 14 and a half is just as hard as 0 to 3. It's just messy. It's a messy, messy time. Okay, I have a question about a 10-year-old. How do I have my 10-year-old son understand my teen girl's attitude? Oh, no. Oh, I love this question. I love this question. Okay, first and foremost, thank you for your question. How do I have my 10-year-old son understand my teen girl's attitude? Okay, first, Mom, let me help you with something. It's not attitude. Let's change the wording. And it feels like attitude. It feels like rejection. It feels like she's annoyed. And that's because, and I love what you wrote. It's normal for a teen, but horrible for your son. Yes, of course. And, and it's because it's that whole concept of finding autonomy. So we have to talk to the 10-year-old, and we have to let the 10-year-old know, yes. So in this scenario, I had the same exact scenario. My daughter's 15, my son is 12, but when she was 13 and he was 10, I had this conversation. So I sat with him and I said, hey, buddy, I know that you feel like you've lost your sister. And, my little guy went into a ball and he was underneath my armpit because he didn't want to have this conversation. It was painful. Right. And I didn't want to have the conversation. It was painful too, because I, as a child development expert, I knew that this day was going to come where this beautiful relationship that I once had was going to be right. So I let him know, look, your sister right now is changing, and she's getting older, and sometimes, she'll wake up and she'll still want, to play, Minecraft with you, because that was their thing. They had this whole Minecraft world. But other times she's going to wake up and she's going to want to talk to her friends, and she's going to want to paint, and she's going to want to, hang out with her soccer team. And that's not about you, baby. That's about her growing and changing. And I know that you feel sad about it, and you miss her. But it's just, that's what happens. And it's not about you. So the message to the younger sibling is to remind them, it's not about you, right? You wrote, he doesn't have tolerance for her walking away, right? He doesn't have tolerance for her setting the boundary, right, of leave me alone, right? Because she's not doing it perfectly, because she's still learning how to set boundaries, and still learning how to find her own space, and still learning how to announce that she needs the independence. So to him, you have to let him know, hey, I know it's hard, but remember, this is not about you. She's not rejecting you. She's just changing and growing. Now, we go talk to the teen and say, mama, listen, I know that sometimes you can, and you feel like hanging out with your brother, but sometimes you don't. And I know that you've tried your hardest to kind of set boundaries with him, but please make sure to let him know, hey, it's not about you. It's not that I'm annoyed with you. It's that right now I want to read a book. Right now I want to talk to my friends. Right now I want to watch this movie by myself, and I know it's weird. So it's teaching the older child to set the boundary and giving them permission to set the boundary. And then you're going to repeat, remind, until they both figure it out. And I will say this, that now that my child is 12 and 15, they're both, being by themselves. And by the way, in quarantine, the 15-year-old has been looking to her brother a little bit more, which has been an interesting turn of events. Okay. I have a question. My son is 10 in the Q&A. And go ahead and ask your questions in the Q&A, because you can choose to ask the question anonymously. I have a question. My son is 10 and his friend has watched very unacceptable content. And how do I explain to my son that he can no longer be his friend? I live in a society that we all know each other, so it's sensitive. And we spoke to the mom and she didn't find it a big thing. Also, thank you for today. You're very, very welcome. And this is incredibly difficult. And this also reminds me to give you guys a statistic. Most boys will see pornography by the time that they are 10. Primarily because somewhere around 10, if you haven't had a sexual conversation about sexual development with your child, they will Google sex. And when you Google sex, the first thing that pops up is Pornhub or Porn this or PornTube or every porn site possible. But I think you're talking more about, rated R movies and things like that. So the best way to manage a difference with a friend is to explain to them that each family has rules and has values around how to keep their children healthy and safe. And that for you as a family, you have decided that, there are rated R movies and video games that you don't want him playing with. And you can let him know that because of that, and because it's so hard for his friend to not talk to you about these things, you want them to have less access to one another. And that that it's hard, but that it's just that you, after you spoke to the mom, you let him know, I was able to speak to your friend's mom, and we both agreed that we have different rules and different ways of keeping you. Pornhub. Yeah, we have different ways of managing this, and we're just keeping you healthy and safe. And if So, okay, so you're letting me know that it was Pornhub, which is a porno site, which is, again, unfortunately normal in this day and age, because, and they're not looking for pornography, guys. The kids are looking, they put sex, they put penis, they put vagina, because they're just trying to get information about sex, especially the 10, the 11-year-olds. And Google does what Google does, like bloop, So if it was Pornhub, it is important for you to speak to them about pornography. And the best lesson to teach someone, yes, if the best way to talk about pornography is to equate it to when you read a really great book and then somebody makes a movie out of it, and it's not the same, right? And that, pornography is people pretending to have sex, and it's nothing like real sexuality. And that's a really, and to be careful, because those first images that we get kind of makes it happen. I have a very close friend who is a board certified sex therapist, and she has tons of 20 to 25-year-olds with erectile dysfunction, right? Because they watch pornography to excite themselves. So now when they're with a real person, their equipment doesn't work. So she's spending a lot of time as a board certified sex therapist. Blue Pearl Therapeutics. She's on Instagram, Blue Pearl Therapeutics, if you want to follow her. Every once in a while, she has a great, talking to kids about sex thing. But if you know that your child has been exposed to pornography, please talk to them about pornography. And that and when they're 10, the simple message is they're pretending to have sex. It's not really how two human beings have sex. Number two, it's, your body's going to respond to it, because, that's what your body does, especially now that you're changing. And three, be careful, because, it will show it to you like perfect, and there's no such thing. And it's just like a book. When you see something and, when you imagine it and it's your first time, the real thing then isn't as good. And Lena, is there a good book to explain sex to my 10-year-old? Yes, there is. So how do I get this out to you? Let me, what I can do is, I have all your emails because you registered. I'll send you I'll send a link to just you guys. I don't do this, but this is hard, and I'm gonna be nice. I'll send you a list of books that you guys can use, because right now with COVID brain, see, me too. I also have COVID brain. Can't remember the exact name of the book. I see it in my mind's eye, but I don't remember it. So I'll email it to you guys as a group. And then here's another question. Let's see. You're welcome. I love you guys. Are so sweet, letting me know that I'm awesome. Believe it or not, it feels good to hear that. Okay. What is the best way to act when they talk back nasty, and sometimes with cast words? Ooh, that's a very fancy word that you just used, or did you typo? I don't know. What does it mean, cast words? I'm assuming that they're saying bad words or nasty words. Okay, in that moment, so here I'll put on my I used to act in Los Angeles hat. Ready? And they look at you and they're like, "You're so stupid! Just get out of my room! Get out! I hate you!" Right? So stupid. Right. And so in that moment, you stop then in your tracks, you find your feet, you change your posture, you breathe. Finding feet, changing posture, and breathing takes less than 5 seconds. So go ahead and do it, and then look at them and say, name the feeling. Hey, you're really frustrated, and your frustration is making you speak to me in a really disrespectful way. So let's both breathe. Let's take a moment and tell me in a different way why this is so upsetting. and then wait the 5 minutes like I told you and walk away. So always you kind of bring your energy down, right? Grosería eso. Yes, bad words, groserías. I love it. No, it sounds better in Spanish. It's you always calm down first, especially with an adolescent brain, because here are like the little tricks, the little things that are happening for the adolescent brain. They get more irritable and more moody, right? So just like when they were little tiny toddlers, and then they would hit their head or throw themselves to the ground and like cry because they built a tower, but now they're doing it about different things. So if they say a bad word, just name the feeling that caused them to say stupid, or tú eres una estúpida, tú eres whatever, F you, whatever, when they run away, right? So the worst thing that you could do is like, don't speak to me like that. Don't meet them with the same energy as best you can. Now, everybody, let's keep it real. You're not going to do that perfectly. I always tell the parents in my online parenting support, listen, I want everybody to have a parenting ratio of 70% of the time. You're the parent that you always, you always imagine you could be. You're holding it together. You're doing, you're feeling good about yourself. And 30% of the time, you're going to mess up terribly. You're going to say a bad word back to them. You're going to say una grosería a ellos. You're going to scream bloody murder. You're going to, I've done this, brake so hard in the car that they hit the back of their head in their car seat. So when you do that 30%, when you mess up miserably, calm down. And at some point within 24 hours, go back to them and apologize. Listen good, because this is important. And you don't apologize by saying, ay, perdóname, yo te traté tan feo, ay, Dios mío, no lo voy a volver a hacer, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm never going to do that again. No, because that's a big fat lie. You're going to do your 30% until you're an adult. The next, you're going to fight with them when you're the grandmother of their children. And you're going to have 30% then too, just like your parents have with you, right? But I want you to say, label what you did. So always first, feeling. Hey, no, first, what you did wrong. I was wrong to scream at you. I was wrong to lose my cool. I forgot to breathe. I forgot to walk away from you. And I was very rude and I was very mean with what I said. And then your teenager will do one of three things. They will either look at you and go, which is going to feel horrible, because it's horrible to apologize to somebody and they're just like, yeah, that's right, you were awful. But that's a good thing, right? They will hug you and they'll be like, it's fine, mom, whatever. Either way, when you say that, when you say, I was wrong, I was feeling, I forgot to manage my feeling, when you do that, and by the way, do this with any age group, but in particular with your teenager, you are giving them an esteemable circle, right? Self-esteem is experienced by doing things that create esteem, like working really hard at at your sport, or working really hard at your extracurricular, and or having somebody treat you like you're worthy of somebody telling you, I was wrong and I shouldn't have treated you that way. Okay, so yay, I love it. Okay, and the sex therapist, let me double triple check on the Instagram. So I'm giving you on Instagram, my friend on Instagram, who is a board certified sex therapist, is Blue Pearl Therapeutic. Blue Pearl Therapeutic. Okay, so you could look her up on Instagram. She puts up all sorts of really fun things for adults. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to tell you about how to spend time with me. So you can do what I just did, one-on-one for an hour and a half. You tell me all the doubts, the baffledness, everything that worries you about your child. And then I give you individualized instructions and help and ideas on how to manage these things that are really hard for you. It's an hour and a half, it's $300, and you can give us a call. And I always say it's well worth it, because you have me, like you just have me right now, but just you and your children. Okay. And the other way to have me every week in this forum is to join online parenting support. It's $49.95. You get a Tuesday call at 1 o'clock every Tuesday Eastern time, and a Facebook group where I answer the members of the online parenting support. I answer their questions 24/7. The only day I don't answer is Sunday, because I do a digital Sabbath from Saturday at 4 all the way till Monday. It's how I manage my own screen time. So those are the two ways that you can get to me. And finally, follow me. I'm always giving good information. I'm always giving free information. These are the the hashtags and the platform. I always forget what they're called, for where I am on social media. Go to the blog. There's a lot of great free stuff there. I'm also on YouTube, but I just YouTube, whatever. I'm on it a lot, but not too much. But I do put up videos there all the time, but they always live every place else. And keep going to the website, sign up for the emails, and you could sign up to be on our email list at the end of any of my blogs, and you can get information about the next time that I do this free Zoom for your age group. Okay, so it's every Wednesday at 12:30. And thank you for being here and for trusting me with your families. And until next time, bye.